Well, hey, good morning and welcome back. It's Dan McDonald coming up. We have Canada's top employment lawyer, Howard Levitt. He'll be joining us to answer all your employment questions. So you can feel free to text those to me at 10800. Right now, though, we're talking about social circles, and it was announced on Friday. We're allowed now to have social circles of up to 10. Those are people, family, friends, acquaintances that we can be in close contact with, but it's pretty rigid. There's some confusion going on, too. A lot of people aren't quite sure of what this means we can and can't do and how many people we can have in. And on the phone with me to answer some of these questions, or shed some light on them at least, is from the University of Ottawa, epidemiologist Dr. Raywat Deonandan. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope you're doing great, too.
I am.
So how rigid are these rules for the group of 10? I mean, we choose a group of 10 to be in our social circle, and, I mean, is that it? We have to stay married to that group of 10?
That is my understanding. Now, these things aren't being policed, and they're not, the law, as far as I understand it. They're guidelines for people to allow themselves to have a social life. And the number 10, I don't feel it's scientifically based. No one decided or made a model that decided that 10 was the perfect number. It's more an easy number for us to remember. We have 10 fingers, and it's a nice round number. But the idea here is to double down on something called homophily, which is a complicated word that we use to describe the fact that people tend to only associate with a small number of other people anyway, right? We tend to see our friends and our family, and that's about it. So why not leverage that reality to control the spread of this disease by making it formal? So to answer your question, you limit yourself to these 10 people and try not to go beyond that if you can.
Now, do you think, too, this as we loosen the social restrictions, is this kind of going to give the illusion almost that the pandemic is over? Because it really is amazing how quickly things can feel like normal when you're in a situation you haven't been in a long time.
Oh, that is the threat here is that people will think it's over when it isn't. That's why I'm a fan of mask wearing at all times, even though mask wearing is mostly useful in indoor environments. If you see someone wearing a mask outside, you're reminded that, you know what, there's still a public health emergency going on. And this is a top priority, I feel, for public health communication is how do we remind people that there's still a virulent pathogens floating around and we're not quite safe yet.
Now, this whole social circle thing, I'm already getting some texts, and people are saying, are you allowed? And I kind of already asked you this, but is it the kind of thing where if I have my friend John Smith over and he's going to be in my social circle, but his mother is also in his social circle, is she now part of my 10 as well?
No, that's not the way it works. So we have social gatherings and social circles. They're different. Your social circle of 10 people are people you can be intimate with. You can share food with, you can touch surfaces with, you can give hugs and kisses to, and not worry so much about distancing. But if you're having social gatherings like a barbecue or going to a patio, you still have to maintain your 2-meter distance and try to avoid touching common surfaces. So your friends' friends or your friends' relatives coming over, they're not part of your circle. You can still socialize with them, but you have to maintain your distance.
Now, are there any measures at all? I don't see how they would police this. And I mean, even some gatherings that I've seen for social, for fun in Trinity Park in Toronto, we saw the massive people, not to mention the protests all over for Black Lives Matter. Are there any measures in place right now to police this? Is there any kind of repercussion? It seems like there haven't been a whole lot of repercussion for people not following the rules. So people are asking, why can't I switch up my circle of 10 by the week?
Right. So as far as I know, there is no mechanism in place for enforcement, nor should there be, I don't think. So this is part of what living in a liberal democracy is all about, is we've moved beyond the phase where governments are putting in laws in place, beyond the phase where doctors are holding down the front lines in the hospitals. We're in the phase now where the citizens have a role to play as partners in all of this. So it's in the hands of citizens now to be responsible and to make appropriate decisions to slow down transmission. And I like that. I like the fact that everyone has a role to play now.
Now, we keep hearing about this, too, the dreaded second wave. Do you think, as a doctor, we are going to see a second wave?
It's unavoidable, and here's why. The disease is still out there, and most of us are still susceptible. So the wave goes down because we take precautions and steps to limit its transmission. But as those precautions lax a bit, then the wave goes up again. What isn't inevitable is that the second wave has to be noticeable or really impactful on our lives. And we can avoid that by, again, following all of the public health mandates like distancing and mask wearing and hand hygiene. That's the goal here.
Absolutely. And now, do you think, too, we could be, I mean, I'm not sure how much you've heard about this, but if there is a big second wave, could we possibly be facing another lockdown, like back to square one like it was back in the middle of March?
I think that has to be something that's in the toolbox still, but I don't think the public has much tolerance for it anymore. So when and if the second wave comes, we have to have these public health measures in place, like extreme amounts of testing, contact tracing, and isolation, in order to prevent that lockdown. But to answer your question directly, I think nothing can be taken off the table, but the social tolerance of further lockdown is minimal.
Right, agree. Dr. Raywat Deonandan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. That is Dr. Raywat Deonandan, University of Ottawa epidemiologist. Circle of 10, the social circles of 10. I'm still picking mine right now. There should be like a Canadian Idol competition. Will you make the circle? But, I mean, talking to Lisa Orr, our etiquette expert, I could totally see how some families, it could cause some rifts. If, you have your immediate family or maybe certain family members that you're closer to, or maybe you want in your social circle a significant other or a group of friends over family members. Maybe you'd rather have your hairdresser in your social circle than your parent, for example. This could cause rifts. I could see how it's happening, but it is very confusing, and there's no real clear message on this. That being said, we can have social gatherings, which I think a lot of people were unclear on from the beginning on that too, about whether or not you could go to someone's house if you maintain distancing, and you can now. You don't have to share food, you don't have to hug or kiss or whatever it is, but you can go to someone's house. That makes me feel a lot better about going to visit my friend in the backyard. We maintained all the social distancing, and we had a great visit. It was fantastic. But it is something I did note, though, when I was putting the fence up at my parents' house, very easy to feel like it's normal again and everything is just fine. Like when you're there for 10 minutes, it's like, we're good to go. And I kind of had to stop myself, like, hey, like, stand back. Don't get so close. Very easy to feel just like old times, which is a good thing that we'll bounce back quickly. But when we got to be cautious, it's something to keep in mind for sure.